I just recorded this entire video just to realize that I didn't have my mic attached, so I'm doing this again. So recently I watched Ginny D's most recent video, or at least most recent as of me writing and recording this, about how D&D can be played for free. And it really struck a chord with me because as someone who does very often fall into like retail therapy, I don't necessarily want to spend a lot on my hobbies. You know, in terms of D&D, I've been pretty good about not spending too much about it. You know, it could be better. I made one purchase that kind of doubled everything that I've ever spent on the hobby. But for the most part, I've been pretty good. I know that most people, you know, according to Google, it's about like $1,000 to $1,200 a year on their hobbies. And as I've playing D&D for about 4 years now, I haven't even met their yearly quota on that. So I think I'm pretty good. I do know that, you know, averages are pretty bad metric, especially because someone could be spending so much that it brings up that average, but I still take it as a win. But the video really did highlight something for me where I think that a lot of hobbies are getting kind of extravagant and becoming kind of, a lot of them are becoming collector hobbies where they are getting kind of, you know, exorbitantly expensive, and that kind of like tugs me the wrong way because I feel like most hobbies should be fairly inexpensive and allow you to create rather than consume. Or like they should be interactive in some way. I think collecting and stuff like that can very quickly, you know, get expensive, and it does only add to like decorate a wall or something like that. I think Ginny D has been very historically good about mentioning that a lot of the products that she, you know, puts out online or that she promotes or even just talks about is like a luxury product. You don't need a giant D&D table. You don't need these crazy dice. You know, you don't need these supplements. And I think she's been really good about that. And I say that fully as someone who is working on making D&D supplements. I also make, you know, money as an artist selling illustrations. So I do understand there's a bit of irony in that, but I do want people to understand that like these kind of things are luxuries and you don't need them to play. So I don't want to detract from her video too much. I do think that you should just watch it if you haven't already, but I feel like if you're the kind of person to watch this video, you've probably already watched her. I just want to go very quickly over her 4 points in her video, and then kind of just put my own perspective on it. I don't want to repeat the same things that she said. I just want to say it from my perspective mostly because I am someone with more, you know, average access to spending cash, and I don't, you know, have like brand deals with you know, tabletop companies, and I don't have a lot of this cool stuff. So I want to go over and talk about it from there, because you really truly don't need to spend a lot of money to play. So the 4 categories that she specifically had gone over was books, maps and minis, dice, and then the DM screen. So starting off with books, I have never owned any D&D book outside of the cookbooks. So I have the cookbooks here. Don't want to tear that apart. And I didn't even pay for these. These are the only D&D like actual material I've ever read. The way that I've actually learned to play was mostly from playing in games myself. I had you know, watched tutorials, and then I also just watched like live play shows. So from there, I kind of pieced together how the game worked. So I never felt the need to at least buy like the physical books, especially because my game is very RP based. A lot of my players prefer the RP, and D&D is like a rules light system when it comes to RP. They don't really tell you exactly what to do there. So for the most part, when it comes to like RP, we're good. And then the players who really like the combat and the rule system and everything like that, they will probably have the book on their own. I think the 2 people who, or the 1 person who really does like delving into the rules knows how to Google and might have the book on his own. But I haven't ever really had a need for that. The only time I've ever bought like the books was on D&D Beyond when I very first started DMing. That was about 3 years ago. I didn't know how to build character like sheets properly, or I didn't know how to like guide people through it. So I just used the online tools to kind of put it together for myself. That way, especially because all my players, they've never played like D&D or anything like that, they wouldn't know how to build it themselves or Google it either. So to get them to do it very easily, I just used the D&D Beyond tools. It made it easier for me. I do kind of regret it now. I kind of wish I just knew the game a little bit better or Googled it so I can help them, because I don't really even use my D&D Beyond too much anymore. So I'm kind of at the point where if I am looking for content like book-wise, I am just supporting like third-party creators that I enjoy. For one, I've done like Kibble Stacy. That's something that I really liked. Maps and minis. So in terms of maps, I understand that some people really want those extravagant 3D scenes, you know, dungeon tiles, something like that, but those are expensive. They can get up to like thousands of dollars, like multiple thousands of dollars, just to have like a specific set. And they are lovely, and again, they are luxury products, but you truly do not need them. I am in the process of making my own dungeon tiles on my own here. I'm using like RP Archives method, and I think this magnet just came out. Yeah, oops. The magnet just came out here, but the idea is to have these tiles and they're 3x3, and you know, you would just use like a grid on those. But I'm like in the process of making a bunch of like terrain, things like that out of foam, just because I don't want to avoid that. But also, even with all that, I barely ever use those. I just used a basic battle map. So like this, so this is a very basic battle map with two sides here. Dry erase, this cost me maybe like, it might have been like 20 bucks maybe. You can probably find them for cheaper. I like those dry erase ones are great. Those are a really great cheap alternative for playing. I know that you can kind of play Theater of the Mind for a lot of people, but I don't think it works for a lot of people. They can't track multiple people on a battlefield at once in their head, and that's totally fine. That's just some people don't have the ability to spatially kind of like do that. So having a battle map is a great help. I don't recommend getting ones that have like a design on them, or I know there's someone like preset designs. Those ones kind of work sometimes. If you really want to do maps, you can either print them or just get like a plain one here, because the ones with like preset design, like the dry erase ones with preset designs, they suck when you put expo markers on them. Like you can't see what you're putting on them. And then my other recommendation, if you need to do a lot of maps at once, don't buy multiple of these. What I would actually recommend is wrapping paper. So wrapping paper with a 1-inch grid. A lot of craft ones have this, if you can see it here. These are great, especially if you're running like one-shots or something, or a session where you're running a lot of combat at once. These are fantastic for that. I prefer them for that. So that's what these are for. So I've done sessions where like you're jumping from map to map, and I can only have 2 maps on this. So having, you know, this wrapping paper works really well. You could also get like teacher supplies. There's like white 1-inch grids that you can get for like 50 bucks or something like that. And you know, in terms of square footage, it's a lot better than doing the wrapping paper. Way better. It's like 12 times 12 times more efficient in terms of like, you know, like dollar per square foot. But you know, 50 bucks is still 50 bucks. So that's up to you personally. You know, I haven't gone through that situation enough where I need more than this single roll. And I've also still used this for just like wrapping paper, so it's kind of dual purpose. But yeah, I would say maps are pretty necessary. Most people can't play in their head, especially if I have a larger table. If you're playing with like 3 people online, you could probably get away with it. But if you're playing at a table, having a map is really helpful. Okay, minis. So minis are not necessary. I'm in the process of making like terrain, things like that, because I like doing it, and also because it's expensive, and I have a lot of, you know, like minis. Like these are a bunch of, it's my box labeled Crate and Barrel. But minis are very much like an excess thing. These ones, most of these are gifted by people. Like I have this dragon here. I have this gemstone dragon, I think is what it is, that I was gifted by a player. And you know, I have a guy who helps me print minis and design minis. So this one I designed myself. It's not showing up in camera well. I'll show the actual promo image. But I design and make minis and stuff like that, but I truly, so honestly, don't use minis a lot in my own personal games. I would love to if I had the time to paint like all of them, but most of the time I just use these standees. I have this little box of standees. So the standees are really great. I bought them for like, I think like 16 bucks, something like that, and it came with like 60 of these, which is fantastic. They have all these little dry erase things. They're a little bit kind of like dirty because they don't actually dry erase that well, but they work for what you need. They have all these bottoms, things like that. And my favorite thing that I like to do with them is if any of your players get art commissioned by someone, or you know, a player in your party is an artist, or even if you just want to have fun and like duel your characters, you can make standees with art of them. So this is one that I did for a player. I did them for all my players when we first started. We have this one's Breezy. You know, I made them for the 5 other players. But if you have art of your characters, just put them on a standee. I kind of like this. Most of my players, they said they like this as opposed to a mini, because like this is like, I don't know, it feels a little artsy, even if you know, it's not like a full miniature. So that's an option that I don't really see a lot of people do. Okay, dice. So I don't have a lot of dice. I bought a set of like, what was it, like 28 dice when I first started the game. And it was for like less than 20 bucks, something like that. And I used that just to kind of like get my players started with dice. That gave them each the 7 sets. But realistically, you don't even need to do that. You could have like an iPad app or something, or like a phone app. There's phone app dice. Or also just like Google has like a dice roller thing with all the dice that you would need for D&D. So you don't really need dice. I've only ever bought like 1 set of dice for myself, like 1 nice set of dice. I think it was like 40 bucks. But every other dice that I've ever gotten, for the most part, has been a gift. Like this is my very first like personal like custom dice set that I've ever got. I don't know if it's gonna show up that well on camera. There we go. It's a little succulent one. So those are really cute. These are my like favorite set of dice. I got them as a gift. They're my very first set. But like honestly, you don't need all these like weird dice. I've barely ever like spent money on dice. This one was again made by a friend. You don't really need dice. You can just use a website, things like that. I actually fully agree with that. I love pretty dice. I would love to one day commission. I think it's Shorts Horde. I think they're on Instagram. I'll put up their thing. I would love to commission them for like a custom set of dice once, but that's just not something that most people can really do or afford. That's like hundreds of dollars on a little set of, like resin. And they're beautiful and art matters, but most people, it's not practical for most people, and I totally agree with that. The last point on Jenny D's video was DM screens. I do think that DM screens are important. You could totally just play without one. Some people, don't like to play with the DM screen. They want to roll everything open, so they won't have a DM screen open. I like them because I can kind of have some of my information up. But you could very easily just get one of these, like classic dragon ones. This one's by Tyler. Oh my God, what is his name? Tyler, I can't remember his name. Artist that I really like. But these ones are really cheap. You can get these as well. You can also just make them out of cardboard. I've seen some people literally just get some spare cardboard. I'm sure maybe you have like an Amazon package, or you bought something from Costco, or just like bought anything. It came in a cardboard box. You can kind of set up like a screen thing. I know that Diana of the Rose, I think, if I'm remembering her name right, I'm saying it slow because I'm afraid of messing it up, but she has this insane DM screen that's like, like 9 panels. Yeah, I might show an image of it on screen. That one is insane. It gives me kind of anxiety a little bit, so that's not for everyone. But this is where I actually have spent a little bit too much money. This is what has doubled my my entire thing of D&D. Is I bought this wooden DM screen with like magnets and stuff on it because I really just liked the theming of it. I was at a Ren fair, I think it was was it last year? It might have been last year. And they were tabling, and I really liked it. And I checked online, and on Etsy, for whatever reason, there was one that was on sale for like over $100 off. So I bought that. Do I think it's necessary? Absolutely not. Does it spark joy? Absolutely. I love that thing. Did it stink for like the first 3 weeks? Yeah, it smelled like chemicals for like the first 3 weeks. But it's completely and totally like an excess of cash. You don't need to do something like that. But it is something that you can totally play without. But cheap options, again, just buy like a cheap DM screen or like make one out of cardboard is probably what I would recommend. Okay, so that was mostly me just very quickly going over everything that Jenny D had talked about in her videos. I want to very quickly go over the things that I have bought for D&D that I personally really enjoy. One is going to be the cookbooks. That's a different hobby though entirely. I kind of want to make cooking stuff, but that might be a different channel. The things that I really personally enjoy in D&D, and I'll go over it right now. There's a few things I like. I really like just this is a laser pointer. So it does obviously lasers, and then it has a few different shapes. But one of the, I think, where's the dial here? So there's like a dial. I can't really show you what it does. There's a dial, and I can kind of like, I guess I can point it there. So there's like a star shape, there's a rat shape, things like that. If I turn up the color here, it turns into a regular flashlight. If I turn it down in the middle here, you see that it's a little bit bluer. I don't even know if it's showing up on camera. But this is actually a great, let me see if I can show it here. It's a black light. So if I want to do like secret hidden messages, I love this thing. The red light is really, really helpful when I have combat, because I actually sit far away from my player, or like not far from away from my players, far away from the battle map. So it does make sense for me to crawl over the table, be like, can we move this guy this way? And also it's just hard to tell people directions of like where to move things. So I'm like, oh, can you move him to that spot? And I use the laser pointer to point the spot that I want them to move, like an NPC or something during a combat encounter. And then speaking of combat encounters, very helpful. I love having a like a measuring tape, especially a cloth measuring tape, or like a, you know, ones that are made for like bodies. The reason I prefer these over like the metal ones that I see some people use for D&D is that you can kind of like, if you wanted to move 60, you want to move, what's it called? 30 feet. So that's 6 inches, right? So you could kind of like do a custom path if you want to run in a circle for whatever reason. That's like 60 inches. Because a lot of the times I don't like gridded combat. There's, you know, everyone has that problem with like Euclidean movement. Because if you move in a diagonal, you know, you're moving slightly faster because of like Pythagorean's theorem. So I like having these, especially, oh, big thing. If players are in the air for whatever reason, you can just use your measuring tape and just measure them. Like which way are they going? Fantastic. Love those. That is one of my favorite things to do with D&D. And then of course, like little mats here. So these are our little play mats. I don't want to use that one. These ones are like really cheap. I bought them for like nothing at all. The one problem is you'll see that the cloth kind of like bunches up here. So what my players have actually gotten to doing instead is they actually reverse it. They put them like this, and then use the dice mats that way. I think dice mats are, like, honestly, one of the things I would definitely have to have at a table. It depends on who your players are. But my players are clumsy and they drop things everywhere. Even with these dice mats, they are dropping their dice all over the floor. So get a dice mat if your players are clumsy. I think that's something that's very helpful. And don't get a lot of them. Honestly, if you have just one for every 2 people, like place them in between seats. I have a lot here because some people have their own and they brought some, and they left them at our house. I think I only had 4 technically. The others are all from other people. The other thing, since we're just still on the thing of combat, this is the only other thing that I really enjoyed is a combat riser. Just visually, when someone's flying, it helps. It's nice to know when someone is flying. So that's something that I personally really enjoy. This is something that I got gifted I don't use it too often. They're condition rings. I honestly don't use them too often because I'm using the standees, and they're just kind of inconvenient. I don't really like these, but I have them, so I use them occasionally. But the big thing that I really, really like for D&D as a, just as a DM, as someone wanting to keep my stuff organized as possible, is I love pencil boxes. This is a little bit weird one, so hear me out on this one. So this one is a pencil box. I made one for each of the players, and they write their character names on there, or their actual names, doesn't matter. But it's just a great place to keep, their personal dice if they have some. If they don't have like a storage place for their dice, it's great. Storage is fantastic, and they can keep their spell cards, stuff like that. So if I give them spell cards, I will put them in here. And another thing that I do is I have these like campfire cards where if a player uses these campfire cards on another, character, especially PCs, I give them inspiration. So it kind of incentivizes them to go and speak to other people. But this is somewhere where like if I have like custom item cards, things like that, I will put them in here. What I really like about these is I can hand out these these pencil boxes to my players. Part of it is like the ritual of playing, and also I can hide messages in there. So if we take a break to get some food, I can slip a secret item or message in there that only the player will read. I don't even need to mention it in game. You can get the same thing across with like a text message, but I don't want people like on their phones, so I can put it in their card. So if they receive a message from the big bad or something and they're being all sneaky about it, that's something that I really personally enjoy doing there. So those are just like a few of the actual props and stuff that I really enjoy. My experience with spending with D&D. Hopefully it doesn't spiral into me spending much more with the hobby. I do think that I've been pretty good about it. I don't spend too much on it, especially when it comes to like stuff that we use at the actual table. But those are the things that I personally really find valuable to playing the game. I don't know, honestly, if I've added too much. I just think, it's one of those things where it's like everyone's talked about this, but I haven't talked about it in my own voice. So that's why I'm doing this here. But let me know your experiences. What are the purchases that you've made with D&D that you really think were worth it? And what do you think maybe were things that you didn't think were worth it? Because I have so many minis that I don't think I'm ever going to use. And so I definitely don't think those were worth it at all. So yeah, go ahead and just comment below what you think you would have done that. But thank you so much for watching. I know this one was a little bit of a loose one. I just kind of needed a break from reading from a script.